Hey there, welcome to episode 12 of Toy Talk with Mike,
Chad,
or Mike's Collection Legacy Numbering, episode 108, right?
208.
208. Yeah, look at that. Episode 208. All right. So, in today's episode, the part of our collection that we're going to be talking about is some Star Wars Black Series figures. Now, you've got one of the newest figures,
yes.
Hot off the presses.
Yes.
I've got a bunch of old-ass figures because this is one of those videos that I've been putting off. Not for really any particular reason, but I like to kind of do theme videos. More people watch them when they're theme videos. Because if I just do, here's one Ninja Turtle, here's one G.I. Joe, here's one Transformer, it's hard to know what to label the video and people don't really find me. So I think, okay, well, I've got a couple of Star Wars. I've got a couple more on pre-order. I'll wait till I have 5 or 6 of them, and then I'll do Star Wars Black Series video, because then people will find it. Anyway, it's just one of those things where I've got 4, 5, 6 Black Series figures, and I just never got around to reviewing them because other things kept popping up. So some of these I've had for literally months. So I've got some old ones. You've got a new one. Do you want to just get started?
Sure. So you actually got me onto the Black Series figures, because...
So how many do you have now? Because I know I bought you Greedo online.
Greedo, Darth, Akbar.
Right.
I think this is 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are they still all in package, or have you opened some
No,
of
they're
them?
open because they're smaller, and I put them in with other little things. So.
Okay.
So anyways, I picked up Riva from the Obi-Wan series, and she got a lot of flack from some people in the series.
Where did you find her?
She was at Giant Robot, my local comic book store that I shop at.
Okay.
Got them to put her aside for me. She was one of my favorite characters in that series.
Who else was in that wave, do you know?
Oh, I can't recall.
Were they all Obi-Wan characters, or was
No, I think Bib Fortuna was in that wave.
Okay. Spoiler alert, he's one of the ones that I've got coming up, but I've had him for a little while now.
Yeah, they were all different. I know that. They weren't all Obi-Wan. But, Riva.
Alright. So let me take a look at her.
Pretty solid.
Yeah. It looks like her. This is one of those figures with the digital face printing. It does the actress justice. It looks like her. I had kind of mixed feelings about her. I know there was a lot of hate online for her for shitty reasons, like her ethnicity and whatever else. But I think some of the criticism, well, she wasn't the greatest actress, maybe. It was I don't know. Is that a fair criticism, or is she giving some bad lines to read? Because just her whole... spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. But she starts off, she's kind of so she's an Inquisitor, right? Is that what we call her? Which is essentially a Sith kind of thing. And she's after the good guys, but then halfway through the series, you kind of realize she's got
some good.
Yeah, she's got ulterior motives, and she's trying to get close to Darth Vader. And I just don't know if I bought into her story and all the things that she did for the first half of the show to make us believe, this chick is bad news. Yeah. And then it's she's only doing it for the greater good, or whatever you want. It's I don't think she would have done all that shit or whatever. It's I feel this character was, and I felt that show suffered from some sloppy writing, for sure.
It wasn't, out of all the new Disney Plus shows, it was probably my least favorite of all the series that have been released so far. Yeah. For that reason, we talked about that in person, and I think we hinted at it a little bit on one of the episodes before, but yeah, that's my least favorite. The other character that was out from this wave was the 5th brother.
Okay, and it's the white guy with the hat and
with
stuff.
The Kung Lao hat, who did look pretty decent as a figure.
And see, that's the thing. It's when these first got announced, because I think they were kind of, as that show was airing, a lot of these characters were getting introduced to the public for the first time. Yeah. So the first episode would come out and she'd be in it, and then she went up for pre-order the next day. And then episode 2, a new character was introduced, and then they'd go for pre-order the next day. So yeah, it was like there's 2 other Inquisitors or 3. There's another female, and then there's 2 guys.
Yeah, the Grand and the 5th brother.
Yeah, and they're all in this wave of figures, I think, or this or the next wave of figures. They're all coming out. And my first instinct was to hop online and pre-order them all, but I didn't. These might be characters that I'd buy eventually. Mm-hmm. I'm still feeling a little burned about that Hasbro sale from a while back. And just to recap, Hasbro had a big sale on their website 2 months ago now, where everything was 40% off, and they had literally, like, say, hundreds of figures, 200-300 figures for 40% off, and I had literally bought like 100 of them in the months leading up to the sale. Star Wars, Transformers, G.I. Joe, Marvel Legends, and I was like, I should have waited to buy these things. So now when it comes to a character like this that I'm not like absolutely in love with, rather than pre-order, I'm like, wait a sec. If I don't end up getting this figure, am I going to lose any sleep over it?
Right.
Or if in time I find I really like her, maybe I have to pay double the price on eBay later. But I'm kind of banking on I can maybe buy her when she's on sale later. I never really had that frame of mind until that Hasbro sale kind of devastated me.
Now, do they do Black Friday sales? Hasbro?
I don't know. Times have kind of changed since COVID and stuff. Like that sale, I think that was the first time they've ever done that sale. But like their website, Hasbro Pulse, wasn't like a big marketing tool for them before. Seems like Super 7 does this a lot, where every Christmas they have a sale where it's like buy 5 reaction figures, get 1 free. And, at $25 a pop, that makes a difference.
Yeah.
And so now I'm kind of, when I'm buying my reaction figures, sometimes I am thinking like, hold on, do I need these all right now?
Right.
These figures aren't as rare as they used to be. With a lot of figures, it used to be like they were made to order. It was hard to get. You got to buy them now. But now I find things are available for months and months afterwards. So I am trying to slow down and be a little bit more cautious with figures like Riva. Another thing, when it comes to characters like this, for me, is in the old line, like in the old movies themselves, Darth Vader was such like a badass, and the Stormtroopers were all just these like, grunts. Yeah, adults that couldn't shoot anything. Then you've got this one epic badass. And when I look over at my Star Wars collection now, like I've got Darth Vader, Darth Maul, Kylo Ren, Darth Raven,
Darth Sidious.
Yeah, I've got the Knights of Ren that are all in black and stuff. I've got the Inquisitor's sister. She's black. She's got a lightsaber. Like, it looks like I have a whole shelf over there of just Sith. And it kind of diminishes Count Dooku. It just kind of diminishes the cool factor. And the fact that this is almost like a whole wave of, like, knockoff Darth Vaders. Oh, people in black with red lightsabers. It just kind of, like, sucks the cool factor out of Vader a little bit. And for that reason also, I'm kind of like, I don't know if I want to buy all these guys. It's a little much. So, I don't know.
The other person I hope they put out from this show is Freck.
Which one's that?
He was that guy that stopped and picked up Obi-Wan and Leia with that little shuttle. He seemed like the friendly monster, and then you find out he's friends with the Empire.
Oh,
they transport him to the base, and then they're sitting in the back of the truck. It's like that pickup truck looking thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was just a weird, odd looking.
Plus, I'm more into monsters. Give me more aliens and more monsters, and less humans. But yeah, it's a cool figure. She's a decent character. I might get it eventually. So you're gonna open her when you get home, or?
No, probably not.
No.
Maybe. I haven't made up my mind yet. Cool. It's easier with the Black Series because they're smaller, and I can kind of put them in between Batman figures. I have no rhyme or reason to my collection. It's just kind of all sorted together.
Sure. All right, so you want to take a look at my first one?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, just since he's here on the top of the pile, I'm going to go with Cassian Andor. Now, before I start talking about the figure, and again, I might shoot some. It's very hard to get you guys a good shot here, the way the lighting is set up, he's kind of all glare, so I might do some cut-ins, some close-ups here. But before we talk about the figure, have you watched the trailer for the new series?
Yes, which comes out on the 21st.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
Can't wait.
Because, I loved Rogue One.
Yeah.
And the fact that this is like kind of a lot of the same creative team, same writers, same actors, all that stuff. Like, I think it's got a lot of potential. And I really like this actor, and I really liked the character. And I was really disappointed when Rogue One came out. The only Cassian Andor they gave us was in a big poofy blue winter jacket.
Right.
So, like, I bought Jyn Erso, and I bought the robot guy, and I wanted Cassian, but I just didn't want big winter jacket, because I was like, they're probably going to do a non-winter jacket version. And so I waited, and they just never put one out. And in fact, the Rogue One merchandise seemed to die off really quickly. I don't know if that's because as cool as it was, it didn't really do it for kids. And so, it was less fun aliens. It was a little bit more like war movie, which is why I loved it. But I could see why it wouldn't move as many toys. So I've had no Cassian Andor in my collection for a couple of years now. But this new figure came out corresponding with the new show that's coming out on Disney Plus. And I don't know enough. Like, I think this looks like what he wore in Rogue One to me. It's probably very similar. He was just pretty basic looking shirt and a jacket. So, this is a cool figure. I think it looks like Diego Luna pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's nothing special, but he's what he needs to be.
He's Cassian Andor.
Yeah. But similar to Riva, I had pre-ordered him a while ago, and then I got the email that says your Cassian Andor is in stock at Big Bad Toy Store, and I was like, sure, send him to me. But I considered canceling it because it's just with characters like him, I don't think he's gonna sell out.
No.
If anything, he might be like a peg warmer, and he'll be on sale later. And just human characters, as much as I like the character, he's just kind of boring. He doesn't look interesting on the shelf. I almost canceled my pre-order of this guy, and I'm actually thinking back. I think I might have I think I pre-ordered him. I think I canceled it, and then I went to Toys R Us and I saw what they were charging for, because I wanted to buy Galen Erso.
Yeah.
Because again, I like that actor, I like that character. But they were selling him at Toys R Us, which is the only place you can get him in Canada, because I think he's a Target exclusive. So in Canada, he's a Toys R Us exclusive. And he was like $44 plus tax for a basic figure, which would basically be $50. And they were asking that for a bunch of Star Wars Black Series figures. And I was thinking, oh shit. I'm like, when Cassian Andor comes out, he's going to be like $44. And my pre-order at Big Bad Toy Store was like $24 American, which still after conversion is about $30 Canadian, which is a fair price.
Still cheaper though.
So I kind of was like, because once you pre-order something at Big Bad Toy Store, that locks you into that price. So I went back and I pre-ordered him because I wanted to lock in the price. So that's how it all went down with him. Cool figure. Maybe I'll get Galen if they ever put him on sale. I hope they do. Now, a couple of days after me and Chad shot this video, I actually went to Toys R Us, and I saw that they had 2 rows of Galen Erso figures marked down from like $40 to $22.78. I had one in my hand. I was going to get it, but ultimately I passed because I decided to buy a couple of Shang-Chi figures that were on sale instead.
So for conversion prices, you're pretty much saving like $20 on that figure through getting it.
Now, mind you, you have to factor in shipping. But that's why I do this pile of loot function at Big Bad Toy Store. So you pile things up and you say, okay, once you've got 6, 7 items, whatever you think is fair, then ship that to me. And if that's $20 shipping, in my mind, I can divvy that up across 8 items and it's reasonable. So I feel like I definitely saved money buying him online rather than buying him locally. So anything more on Cassian from you?
Nope. Just looking forward to the show.
Yeah, me too. Sidebar. So I was watching all this stuff Disney revealed. And I knew this show was coming up, but I don't think I realized it was coming up so soon. But it makes sense it would for Halloween. But Marvel's Werewolf by Night.
Yes.
Did you see the trailer for that? I did. And that's got another cool, I don't want to say Mexican if he's not Mexican, but I think he is. It was both those two actors, Diego Luna and Gabriel, the guy that's playing the Werewolf by Night. They were both in a movie many years ago called Y Tu Mama Tambien. I believe they're both Mexican. But anyway, that looks like a cool show too. I'm looking forward to that. So anyway, back to Star Wars. This is a dude. Again, he falls into that kind of annoying camp of red lightsaber, masked, cool looking guy, but I'm kind of sick of cool looking guys with red lightsabers. It's just like, who's this guy I think he is walking around with a red lightsaber? Like, and I don't even remember what this figure is called. I think it's Imperial Senate Guard or something like that. And so, yeah, if you're an old school Star Wars fan, you might recognize him with that weird kind of, I don't know, how would you describe that? Beekeeper-y burqa thing. But yeah, like in Return of the Jedi, they had that red helmet and red robes, and they stood there very statically. They didn't do anything. So, and I have a figure of that guy. Comes with a cloth robe, and you never knew what was going on underneath of those robes. The vintage figure from the 80s, he did have a body under there. It was just kind of like all maroon kind of jumpsuit, I think. Nothing really special. When they did the 90s figures, and most of the figures were improved over the vintage ones, the Royal Guard was literally just a hunk of plastic. Like, he didn't have separate legs. He was just like kind of a butt plug with like this hat on. And it was very underwhelming figure. But it led me to believe that these guys were pretty inactive and they didn't do much. But now, like, they did the Praetorian Guards in the sequel trilogy, and those guys were like, they were like Sith warriors. And you're like, oh, were the Royal Guards supposed to be these badasses? Because they never came across that way.
No, definitely
in Return of the Jedi. And you first saw blue versions of them in The Phantom Menace and stuff. But they had kind of open faces. It wasn't quite the same suit. They had some like plumage on the top of their... So I don't really know where this guy fits into the continuity, because he's not really a prequels character, and I don't think this guy appeared on film looking like this at any point in time. But I think he was kind of an off-screen somewhere maybe between the prequels and the original trilogy. I don't know. So what do you think of him?
Honestly, I'm not a fan.
He's got... You can't tell. I've got him sculpted holding his or posed holding his lightsaber, but I find he's got big ape arms. They hang down to his knees.
I can see that. So we're adding about... Oh yeah, they're definitely down to his knees.
Yeah,
you're adding about that much more.
They look weird. Like, he seems misproportioned.
I mean, I think I'm kind of like you in the fact that I don't like when they try to rehash figures down the line and just give, like, it's a money grab to me. Especially if he didn't have a significant role.
And the thing is, like, I didn't read any of Dark Horse's Star Wars comic books. But I remember years ago when they were publishing a series called Crimson Empire. And you saw one of these guys in the red, except he didn't have his cloak on anymore. And he had, like, a big lightsaber or something. And he had this cool, like, black costume on underneath. And I was like, well, that looks pretty badass. And I was like, I'd like to see these Royal Guards do something more. But I feel it's kind of been overdone now. Mm-hmm. And, like, I did get this figure a while back. So this is that Royal Guard figure, except instead of the big, long cloak that covers his whole body, he's got this double-bladed sword, and he's got this cape, and he's got this armor on and stuff. And I thought, okay, well, this is cool. I don't know much about this character. He is from that Crimson Empire Dark Horse comic book, which doesn't exist in continuity anymore. So I don't know if this is a completely out of continuity character or if they have found a way to integrate him into the modern Marvel continuity. I don't know. I just bought him because I thought he was a cool figure. However, when I got him home, I realized he's got these freakish ape arms that hang down really far, and it kind of just bothered me. And anyway, I thought it was an okay figure. I was at GameStop I don't know, a couple of months ago, 3-4 months ago now. And I saw this guy, and that's when I was still in impulse mode.
Yeah.
And I bought him. I was like, oh, a blue one. Bought him up. And then got him home, and I was like, I don't know why I bought this guy. Like, I don't like this sculpt very much because of the arms. I don't know anything about him. And he was a more expensive figure, like, because he was an exclusive of some sort. I don't know if he was a GameStop exclusive or maybe a Walgreens exclusive, which we get here in Canada at GameStop sometimes. But, the average Star Wars Black Series figure is about $30-$32. I think he was like a $35.99 plus tax figure. I bought him the first time I saw him, and now I see him in their like discount bins. He's like $15.99. So yeah, I'm kind of kicking myself that I ever bought him in the first place. I would have felt a lot better if I had bought him for $15.99 instead of $35.99. But he is what he is.
Yeah, I just wish his head would have moved. I don't know. It's kind of stuck there.
I know. He doesn't even have the cool flashy cape that this guy has.
I know. I like the dual color cape too.
Yeah,
it's flashy.
It's like Liberace in here. Look at this guy. It is flashy. But yeah, this guy charged me more money, give me less stuff. I don't like that. So anyway, so that's the Imperial Senate Guard or whatever his name is. Next one. So here is another guy that falls into that Riva human, black suit, lightsaber, kind of boring, kind of played out. This is Moff Gideon from the Mandalorian show. Now, I liked the character.
Yeah.
I like the actor. But he was a guy that I was like, you know what, there's nothing exciting enough to warrant me buying this figure. I've said this a million times, but when I started buying Black Series figures, my goal was to just buy the cool robots, cool aliens. I have a huge tote bin full of 3 3/4 Star Wars figures. I have every Senator, every Jedi, every Aunt Beru, like all the most boring civilian characters you could ever want. And I didn't want to do that again at this price point, and that takes up this much room. And so even though he's not a boring civilian necessarily, like Riva, it's a good digital face printing. It looks like the actor. The figure's fine. He does come across a little short, but I don't know if that's because the actor's short. He seems a little diminutive to me.
How do you pronounce his name? Giancarlo or is it Juan Carlo?
I don't know.
Let's go with Giancarlo.
Giancarlo, fine. He was Gus Fring from Breaking Bad.
That's what most people know. I can't get past that.
Yeah. But, anyway, like, it's fine. The cape's a little weird. Like, it hangs a little... doesn't have much flow to it. Like, it's just got a little peg that plugs into his back.
That would annoy me.
It's annoying.
Also, I don't understand the consistency with Black Series characters. Like, you'll get some of them with cloth capes, others with, like, hard plastic capes.
Yeah. And just, like, size-wise. Again, maybe Moff Gideon is short. I don't know. But, like... it's hard to do it without a flat surface to rest them on, but this guy like kind of towers
like
over.
Inch.
Yeah, it's like this guy seems really small, and it just seems out of scale with some of the other figures, like next to Darth Vader and stuff. It looks very small. So I was not going to buy this guy. The only reason I did is, you remember a while back I told you I went to Strange Adventures is my comic book shop that I go to every week, and that's their kind of like their main location in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Across the bridge, they have a little sidekick store in Dartmouth where they don't really have a whole lot of stuff, and when they want to mark stuff down and clear up space at their main store, they send it over to their discount store. And any toy that gets shipped over from Halifax to Dartmouth gets marked down to 50% off. So I was in there. I'm never over in the Dartmouth store, but I was over there a while back, and I was looking at the toys for 50% off, and the guy was like, yeah, we're trying to clear out some space. Everything is 75% off instead of 50. And I was there with my buddy Miguel, and he was like, do you have this guy yet? And I was like, no. And I'm like, so he was like $30, but he was 75% off. I'm like, I think I
can afford that.
Yeah, I think I got to buy him for that price. So that's why I caved and got him. It's a fine figure. I'm not really shitting on any of these figures, but I'm not really excited about any of them either. This one I am kind of excited about.
Yeah.
So I mentioned earlier that I got Bib Fortuna. He's apparently in the same wave as Riva or thereabouts. This is a character, I've always really liked him. I think as a kid, my favorite, like Empire Strikes Back is probably my favorite movie. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I felt that way when I was little. Like, I think it is definitely the best of those movies. By a hair. I think the first Star Wars is great too. I think Empire is only as great as it is because it's leaning on everything that was established in Star Wars. So as a standalone movie, anyway, we're not going to get into all of that. But Return of the Jedi, the opening act, is my favorite Star Wars of all time. Now, you kind of lose me a little bit with the Ewoks and Andor. I don't love that stuff as much. So that's why it doesn't hold up as my favorite Star Wars movie. But I love Jabba the Hutt, and I love Jabba's sail barge and Jabba's palace, the Rancor. As a guy who loves monsters and aliens, all those guys.
That's fitting.
Yeah, Silicious Crumb, Reese, the three-eyed goat guy. I love all that stuff. And so, Bib Fortuna, he's not really my favorite looking of the aliens. He's kind of gross.
Yeah, especially his fangs. Like when he opens his mouth, he's got those gross little teeth.
Yeah. But of all those aliens, he's the one that did the most talking. Yeah. He's the one you kind of got to know a little bit. Yeah. Like, I had action figures when I was a kid of Reese and Squidhead and all those monsters, but most of them were just like, 2-second cuts on screen, just little reaction shots. This was a character you felt like, okay, he's an actual character. You kind of feel like you get to know him a little bit. So, I had the vintage one. I have it over there. I'm going to cut in some comparison shots. So I have the vintage one, which had a real cloth cape. And then I've got the 90s Power of the Force one, and that one's pretty decent too. And this is the kind of character I've been waiting for them to add to the Black Series for so long. Like, sure, he's not a main character, but like, I feel almost any one of those toys that you had in the vintage Kenner line, in people's minds, those are main characters. They've lived with those figures, those characters for so long. Even if they were only on screen for a second, those are the ones people want. And when the Black Series came out, I thought it showed a lot of promise right out of the gate. Like, they gave us Greedo, they gave us Bosk. I'm like, yeah, give me more of these guys. And then they just went to just Stormtrooper after Stormtrooper and repaint and like new Luke and stuff. And I was just like, where's the aliens? It took them forever. We finally have Bib Fortuna. I'm stoked about getting him.
And it's it's nice to see them going back to the old characters too, because it's like we're being spoon-fed all this new stuff because of all the Disney Plus shows that are coming out. So,
and give me that, but give me this too. Like, I don't want the old stuff to stop, especially when there's still so many characters yet to be done.
Exactly. He was one of my favorite kind of bad guys, if you want to call him that. Twi'lek or Twi'lek?
I don't know how you pronounce it.
Twi'lek. I always say Twi'lek, but yeah, like the head tail always kind of weirded me out when I was younger. I'm just like, ooh, what an ugly, ugly creature, but he's devious. Like, I don't know.
And like the figure, it's cool. It's got its flaws because like I think it might have helped to actually have Soft Goods cape on him because it's a bunch of pliable plastic with these slits in it which allow you to move his arms and his legs a little bit, but it hangs funny when you lift his arms up.
Well, not only that, so you have like his undergarment under the cape is that same sort of plastic, so even having a cloth cape there would have helped that a little bit.
And when you see him like in this scale, like the way he's got this kind of bulbous chin with these little dangly turkey bits, and then the head, and then he's got kind of a skinny neck. Yeah. Like, especially, he looked really fat when he appeared at the end of Boba Fett or Mandalorian, whatever it was. But I don't think he was supposed to be that fat in the original trilogy. I think they kind of hefted him up in the newer stuff. But, like, if you look at that figure now, and just imagine him nude, like, what would this guy look like? Like, he looks like he'd have a very weird body shape, weird head aside, because it just looks like his head is really bulbous and full of rolls, but his body looks really skinny. Like, look at his arms are really slender. And yet his head looks like obese. That it's just like, I don't know. This guy looks like he'd be really weird looking. And not like intentionally weird. I just feel like there's a design flaw with the figure a little bit.
That's not something I really think about, but...
I'm gonna text you at midnight tonight and be like, Bib Fortuna nude. It'll be the last thing in your head before you go to sleep.
Yeah. Think on sexy thoughts.
And also, I don't think he came with any accessories. I would have liked him to come with, because the vintage figure back in the 80s, he came with like a biggest staff.
Yeah.
And I don't believe he ever had that staff in the movie, so they just gave it to him so the figure had an accessory. But then what's neat is when he appeared at the end of The Mandalorian,
he had
the staff that was based on what the toy had. So that was kind of a neat callback. And now I get this new figure, and he doesn't have his staff. So it's like,
what are you doing?
I don't know, give me the staff, man. But all that aside, there's flaws with this figure, but I think he's pretty well done, and I'm happy to see him. So
he gets 10 out of 10 from me.
10 out of 10?
Yeah, I'm just happy to see like an older figure.
All right. Well, just to make it interesting, I'll give him a A-.
Okay.
Okay, so the next figure I've got is Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, I feel like I might have talked about this.
You did.
On the channel?
Yes.
I don't know how much I talked about it, but...
I can't remember, but you were comparing him because he had the older figure and
Or was that just on Instagram? I don't know. But anyway, I got this Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Maybe it was just with me.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. So I apologize if I've already talked about this. But I ordered this guy a little while ago from Big Bad Toy Store. So this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, obviously. Now this is a character that appeared in the 6-inch Star Wars Black Series collection pretty early on. And I was still sticking to my guns then. I said, I'm not going to buy an old man in robes. He's like, I like Obi-Wan as a character, and again, I like the actor Alec Guinness and everything, but the toy doesn't excite me. So I passed on him. I actually don't have a Chewbacca. I don't have an R2-D2. I don't have a C-3PO. There's a lot of main characters I don't have. And so, yeah, I passed on Obi-Wan. But then, a year or so ago, I think these were Target exclusives, maybe. They announced that they were doing, was it just 2 or 3 figures? Anyway, they were doing a couple of figures. Greedo was one of the other ones. I can't remember if there was a third one. But they were taking existing figures. Can you think of another one? Or was it just the 2?
I think it was just Greedo, because mine's different than yours.
Yeah, but yours isn't that one.
Mine isn't that one.
No. So they took some previously released figures, and that were originally sold in boxes, like the Riva figure. Yeah. That's how Star Wars Black Series usually come, in a black box. But these figures, as part of the 50th anniversary of Lucasfilm, they were going to repaint them, put them on blister cards. They look like retro Kenner figures, just kind of blown up. But they were going to paint them in the vintage Kenner colors. Because a lot of the Kenner figures from the early 80s, they were not screen accurate, because back then the toy manufacturers didn't care to make them look screen accurate. They wanted them to probably be brighter and more colorful to attract kids. And they probably weren't wrong. Like, an old man in a dusty tan robe.
Yeah, who wants that?
Probably wouldn't be as exciting as this guy that's almost in a red, orangey robe or whatever. So, I really liked the retro-looking figures. I wanted both Greedo and Obi-Wan, but they weren't available to me here in Canada because, like I said, I think it was a Target exclusive. We don't have Targets, and they never showed up that I'm aware of at our Toys R Us or anything, so I thought I was just going to miss out. And then after they'd been out for like a year or so, this figure showed up on Big Bad Toy Store. I'm not sure why they got it all of a sudden, and he was more expensive than I would have liked to pay, because I think he was even like 37 or something US. This guy's probably cost me over $50 Canadian or so. But I wanted him, so I got him. And I do love this figure. And this is one I'm not sure if I even want to open it. All my other Star Wars Black Series are open. But this one is just... I just feel youthful and nostalgic when I look at it. And I feel if I open him up and plop him on the shelf behind 10 other figures, he's going to kind of get lost. Where if I pin him up on the wall somewhere, if I can find the room, every time I see him, he just gives me those little nostalgic feels.
Hello there.
Yeah. And so, I've talked about this a lot on my channel here, but when I was a kid, me and my brother Doug, we collected toys together. So, all the main collections, I only had half of it. And Obi-Wan Kenobi was one of the figures my brother had. So I never had the vintage Obi-Wan. I never had my first Obi-Wan figure didn't come until the 90s when I was collecting my own. So when I bought this figure, and I knew I was going to review it on this channel, I was like, oh, well, I want to compare it to the vintage one. You know, I could just grab a shot off the internet and hold this, you know, compare it to a still image. But I went to the trouble of going out and finding a vintage Obi-Wan. So I went and bought one, so you can see color-wise how it matches up. Again, I'll have to split it in here. But, you know, they both have that kind of deep black V-neck on this really, what color would you call that? Orange?
Oh, that's like a...
pumpkin?
Yeah. Well, I'm also colorblind.
Oh.
Certain shades. To me, that looks like a orangey brown. I would say pumpkin for that one. That's definitely like a...
But they're close.
Like copper.
I think they did a pretty good job of capturing the color of this. Now, this guy, he originally would have had a little piece of vinyl cape that was very thin. It had little holes in it for you to poke his arms through, and it sat on him very awkwardly. It didn't hang realistically at all, but that's how all the capes were done. Him and Darth Vader, they had these little vinyl capes. The jaw was. So when you bought this figure, the original one, it actually did have, I don't think a soft goods cape, but I think it had a plastic sculpted cape.
Okay.
And it hung much more realistically. It did not have this weird like
vinyl
rectangle around him that this one does. But they went and gave him this shittier cape to match up with how the vintage one would have looked. And I love that. I love how kind of silly that cloak looks. So, this figure, I really love it. And,
Yeah, I could see you pinning him. If it was me, I probably wouldn't open that one.
Yeah. And I hate not opening anything, but every now and again I just...
Have to.
Alright, next one. I actually haven't opened this guy yet either because I just bought him on Saturday.
Okay.
Today is Monday. And I waited just so I could show you him in package. But I don't know if I'll open him for this episode. I probably will. Maybe not while you're here.
Right.
But after you go, I'll open him up and I'll do some split screens. But I got black Krrsantan. So this is a new Wookiee character. And he first appeared in the Marvel comic books. I think it was actually the Darth Vader comic book he appeared in. But he kind of became a regular character in the Dr. Aphra comic book.
Yeah.
Because Dr. Aphra was an original character they created in the comic books. And then she had her own little crew. There was like an evil C-3PO named 000. And there was an evil R2-D2 named BT. And there was an evil Chewbacca named God knows what. Because I only ever saw it in writing and I couldn't pronounce it. It was something like Black Krrsantan. But yeah, there's like 3 R's in a row there. So yeah, he was from the comic books, but then, as you probably know, he later appeared in the Boba Fett series, and so was that where you heard the pronunciation for the rest of it?
Yes, it was.
Krrsantan?
Because it's Chrysantan.
Krrsantan.
Because I was like you, it was like Krrsantan.
Yeah, so this figure went up for pre-order a while back, and I didn't pre-order it. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to... This guy might be another one I wait for the sale. Because I didn't really love the way the figure looked when I saw the images online. Like, you know, it's basically, the body is just a Chewbacca, like repainted.
He's black.
It's repainted black. But the way this guy's always been drawn, he didn't look like he was just Chewbacca in black. He looked bigger. Like if Chewbacca was just like a regular Wookiee, this guy looked like a bodybuilder Wookiee. Yeah. So it seemed lazy of Hasbro to not sculpt me a new body for this guy. Now he does have a new head that's got his angry face and his braids and his scars, but it seemed lazy to just stick a new head on a Wookiee body. And then the new armor, it almost looks like they sculpted it like they were going to give you a bigger figure because it almost looks like he's swimming around in it, like it hangs on him kind of funny. So I didn't think I was going to order this figure. I thought maybe if I see it in hand, I'll decide at the time.
He's like the Ronnie Coleman of Wookiees.
I don't know.
He's that really, really jacked African American police officer that lifts like 900 pounds. YouTube Ronnie Coleman.
All right.
Yeah. Anyways.
YouTube Ronnie Coleman when you're done watching this show. So anyway, I did see him. I was in GameStop on the weekend. I saw it. They only had the one, and it was actually my second location I'd been in. So I went into one GameStop to see if they had anything. They had nothing, so I left, and then we went to the mall. I went to the GameStop and they had this one. So I'm like, that means either the other store already had it and sold out of it or whatever. And I was like, and I figured, what the hell? I'm going to buy them. Partly because I have action figures of Dr. Aphra, BT, and 000. So I kind of have the whole squad except for him. So it's kind of weird that I have the evil versions of those three characters and not the main. I don't have Chewbacca and C-3PO and stuff. But, yeah, I guess I'll kind of decide once I open them up if I like it or not.
So with these boxes...
Yeah.
What is the logic in going...
Just to charge me more.
Just to charge more.
Because they call those, like, deluxe figures.
Because they have that rabbit.
Yeah.
In this style.
They did like a Jedi Luke or whatever they call it in the black tank top. And then there's that green space rabbit, Bucky O'Hare.
Bucky O'Hare.
And I think I bought one of these guys already. I think maybe the shirtless Darth Maul was in one of these boxes.
Okay.
So yeah, they just charge you more. The figure's like $5 more because it's in a more obnoxious box.
Like with Velcro.
Yeah, Velcro. That's the extra $5 right there. Like it's not a bad box. It's got some comic book art down the side. You get full image there. But like if you're an inbox collector,
it's cool.
Yeah, but you probably want to be able to display your figure so you see the figure. And then for guys that open it up, like who cares?
Who cares
about all this stuff? So yeah, whatever. So another figure that it's cool, but I don't know if I'm completely sold on it. So this video has not been very pro Black Series figures so far. I keep saying these are all so figures. All right, I've got two more.
Okay.
Maybe we'll do them together.
Sure.
I left one over there by accident.
Walrus Man.
Yes. So, my all-time favorite Star Wars character, as weird as it might be, is Walrus Man. Now, you might think that's weird, but like a lot of kids grew up saying Boba Fett was their favorite character, and Boba Fett barely did anything either. Like, he's got a couple of lines, he gets killed like a bitch, and that's
Did
it.
He get killed?
Well, at the time, for 25 years.
For us, he got killed.
Yeah. So for me, I liked Walrus Man, and even though he's got that one scene in the original Star Wars where he grunts at Luke,
he doesn't like you,
and then he can't talk, so his buddy Dr. Avazan says, "My buddy doesn't like you," and then they get in a little scuffle. Obi-Wan cuts Walrus Man's arm off, and that's it. But the toy, which I have a blown up jumbo version of it back here, this guy in the orange bathing suit, I'll cut in a little still image. But the toy from the 80s looked nothing like the character in the movie. The movie character is actually kind of gross looking. He's hairy. Yeah. His eyes are big, black, dead, like shark eyes and stuff. Where the toy, he had like cute, like googly eyes, and he had like this friendly, like green pea-shaped head. And he's got an orange bathing suit and webbed feet. He's adorable. And I loved that figure. And because I loved that figure, when I played with my toys, I made Walrus Man kind of the star of my show, that I've always had an affinity to that character. That in the 90s, when they started making Star Wars figures again, I was almost a little dismayed that all the Walrus Man figures coming out were like screen accurate, and so he didn't have a green pea-shaped head in a bathing suit anymore. Now he looked like he did in the films. So I mentioned earlier, when they started the Black Series, I was like, give me my aliens. I want Jabba's Palace aliens. I want Cantina aliens. And they just haven't done it. Years and years. Like, how long has the Black Series been around now? Like 10 years?
10 years.
Yeah, like, they have taken way too long to get to some of these aliens. And they finally announced Walrus Man was coming out last year. Now, initially they were going to do... It was part of a Comic-Con exclusive set. You got Walrus Man, you got Dr. Avazan, and you got Obi-Wan Kenobi. And at that point, I was like, well, I didn't really want an Obi-Wan Kenobi, but I'll buy that set for like $100 if I have to, just to get Walrus Man. But then they announced that we're going to sell them separately carded anyway. And I'm like, well, I can buy Walrus Man and Evazan for $30 a piece, and that way I don't have to get Obi-Wan, so I'm not going to waste that extra $40. As it turns out, I got Obi-Wan now, a different version of Obi-Wan, but now I have him. And then I bought Walrus Man and Avazan separate. Avazan, maybe I'll just quickly talk about him. He's fine. I would not give a shit about this character if he wasn't friends with Walrus Man.
Yeah, what an ugly, ugly looking man.
Because there's nothing interesting about this guy. He's just kind of, an ugly man that they made a little bit uglier with some prosthetics. He's got kind of like a pig nose. Like, he almost looks like an Ugnaught that got melted.
Yeah.
Like, he's nothing special at all.
His little gut poking out with his ripped shirt.
Yeah.
Undone shirt.
Very uninteresting. The kind of character I would gladly pass on, but he is forever linked to Walrus Man. They've written comic books and stuff about them. Like, those guys have been friends and partners. They're smugglers together, so they kind of feel like, if I'm going to get one, I need the other. Anyway, so now we'll talk about the Walrus Man.
Yeah.
When they first showed the pictures of this thing online, I was pissed because I've been waiting 10 years for this figure, and they fucked him up as far as I was concerned. His head, when again, I'll do close-up, it looked like a bobblehead to me. His head,
I can see that,
looked gigantic on his body. And I was like, what are they doing? And I was like, please tell me that's just the one promotional image and it doesn't really look like that. But then more images came out. I'm like, they really did. Like, his head is this gigantic ball sitting on top. And I was like, before they update him again, it's going to be another 15, 20 years. I'll be dead before they give me a better one. And I'm like, so this is going to have to be my 6-inch Walrus Man. And after waiting that long, I was just really, really disappointed. But I'll admit he's grown on me over time. It doesn't bother me nearly as much as it used to. I don't know why, but... And to be honest, this might even be screen accurate. Like, I've seen some images online, and the head does look like it was sat pretty big. But any prior version of this character, like, I just happen to have...
Tiny head.
Not so much tiny, but proportionate. Like, this is a figure from the 90s. This is like a 12-inch doll. And, like, his head, just like, it looks like it fits on his body. It doesn't look oversized. I have little versions of this figure. I have Funko Pops of this guy. Well, Funko Pop's head's big, obviously. But, like, the head is always just... It just seemed normal. But then when I saw this figure, it just looked way too big for this body. And... it made sense because I remember reading online before I ever had this figure in hand that what they had done, which as far as I know they've never done before, because they've made Walrus Man in every Star Wars line they've ever done in the past, is they just took the existing ceremonial Luke body.
I can see that.
And they just plopped Walrus Man's head on it. So I was like, you made me wait 10 years
for that.
And then you cheated and you just took Luke Skywalker's scrawny little farm boy body and you put this alien's walrus head on top of it. Of course that's going to look ridiculous. Like, I'm sure if Hasbro had sculpted a new body for him like they do for so many other characters, they would have made him bigger.
Yeah.
There's not a doubt in my mind. So I was super pissed that they took that shortcut on this figure. But, like I said, over time, I've gotten used to it. It's been sitting on my desk waiting to be reviewed now for about 3 months.
Oh, Jesus.
And so I pick him up and I fiddle around with him. And... I can't help but kind of fall in love with him because he is Walrus Man. And one thing that kind of blows me away is I've looked at the images online of like how did they cheat? Like, what does he look like on screen compared to this? And you wouldn't really know. Like, his jacket, it had this like ribbed texture. Like, you see it on the doll. Like, that looks like his jacket. He's got like the one little pocket he's got the one little pocket there. Like, this looks like his outfit. And then I was thinking, well, maybe they knew they were going to reuse this body for Walrus Man when they created it for Ceremonial Luke. So maybe they kind of purposely made it look a little bit like Walrus Man. So maybe they cheated Ceremonial Luke. So I Googled the images of Ceremonial Luke. And he has a yellow jacket, but it's got the same, like, shoulders. And I was like, and it kind of dawned on me. It's like, oh my God, I guess maybe it sort of makes perfect sense. But are you telling me that Walrus Man's outfit was the same thing? Like, he's a drunken smuggler piece of shit in the worst cantina in the galaxy. And Luke wore the exact same outfit to get the award of, like, heroism for destroying the Empire. Like, who dresses Luke Skywalker? Somebody should have advised him. Like, man, that's like that's a garbage outfit. You're wearing like dirty smuggler clothes. You know, it's weird that the outfits are so close.
I think we're gonna go for the piece of shit drunk ass look here, Luke, for this medal ceremony. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, like it was kind of a bit of an epiphany, or I don't know if that's the right word, but like Walrus Man, my favorite character, was wearing the same outfit that Luke was wearing when he got his medal over his neck at the end of just a different color jacket, essentially. So, realizing how close they are, I understand why Hasbro didn't necessarily sculpt the whole new body, but I wish they just maybe shrunk the head on this guy.
Yeah.
Like, that's the new piece they sculpted. Like, make the head smaller. Because they seem to not really care about scale so much. They're making him small. They're making, like, a lot of characters that are a little smaller.
I mean, that's a big difference in head size.
Yeah. Again, I can cut some footage in here. But, like, yeah, Avazan's head is in scale. But Walrus Man's head... the head might even be to scale with his head, but it's just like because they put on a little scrawny Luke body, it looks really out of place. So if you're going to commit to using this little scrawny body, then yes, shrink Walrus Man's head proportionately. I would rather have a proportionately shrunk Walrus Man than a Walrus Man with a small body and a screen accurate sized head. It's I don't know. I still have mixed feelings about it. But I am still glad to get this character. I don't think this figure will make my best of list, which is almost craziness. Because Walrus Man and Merman are going to always make my top list. If you make a new Merman figure, he's going to make the list. If you make a new Walrus Man figure, he's going to make the list. So to get a figure that I've been waiting 10 years for, and him to not make the cut is pretty shocking. Maybe by the end of the year, I will have softened so much on this thing, maybe he'll come close, but I don't know.
So is one of your Instagram jokes with him going to be about his head?
I think it was. I did that's the thing. I've had this figure so long. Whenever I get a new toy, I do an Instagram post and then I do a YouTube video. Sometimes I do the YouTube video first, but I almost always do the Instagrams first. And I think I posted an Instagram on this guy like a couple of months ago. Like it's been a while since I've had him, and I think I did make a joke about it.
Maybe I did like it.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's it. Those are my Star Wars Black Series figures. So, yeah, I figured this was a me rambling episode. Anything you want to add on any of those guys?
I mean, I kind of share your sentiment with this video that it's kind of a bust for Star Wars Black Series figures. With the exception of Bib. I really liked it. Walrus Man isn't terrible, so the only thing I will say about him, I don't like him as much as you do, but I don't have a problem with his head. Now, if you wouldn't have told me that it was Luke's body, I wouldn't have noticed. That's what gives me the issue with it now, because I know that it's Luke Skywalker. Maybe Luke is Walrus Man.
Yeah.
Just the mask, but I mean, he's not terrible, but
they could.
I feel disappointed for you because you're such a Walrus Man guy and you've waited years for this, and
they're really
fall short.
Gimpy with accessories for these figures. Like Bib Fortuna didn't get anything. Most of the other guys are lucky if they get a little blaster. Like Walrus Man has a little blaster, but with him, I feel they could have done maybe a detachable arm. We were just about done the video. I thought we were going to get through without my dog going apeshit, but now Casey's going nuts up there. But like, there's images of Walrus Man on the set. He had these big fin hands.
Yes.
But I think when they originally shot the arm coming off, the fin layout was confusing, and they're like, it's not clear that we cut somebody's arm off. So then they put a werewolf arm essentially there. But when he was walking around on set, he had suction cup hands. So depending on what image you look online, you might see Walrus Man with a suction cup or the werewolf looking hand. I feel to pad the packaging a little bit. They could have gave us separate lower arms, and you could have, or at least at the wrist, swap his hands out. Give him a beer glass or something. Give him some accessory. Anyway.
That would have been cool.
What are you going to do? All right, well, maybe we should wrap this up because my dog is telling us we're over time here, I guess. So, anyway. So here's a closer look at all the figures we just talked about, with the exception of Riva, because I'm filming this after Chad has gone home and taken her with him. So, yeah, these are all the figures. Originally, I was going to splice in some footage, kind of close up of each figure as we talked about it, but I got a little lazy and I just thought it would be easier to kind of do it all at once here at the end. So I'm just going to take a couple of minutes to show you guys what these guys look like a little bit more close up. So starting with Black Krrsantan. So yeah, you can see his face. This is definitely an original face with those braids and stuff. You know, you wouldn't have seen those on a Chewbacca figure. So he's got this big scar over his eye. He's got the mouth kind of sculpted open, and I think that's all different from the Chewbacca's we've seen. But from the neck down, this is just Chewbacca's body, and I think you can probably see what I mean, where it feels like he's just too skinny for this character. Like, this armor seems like he's kind of just swimming around in it. Like, his shoulders should be much broader. You know, and I don't know if I should have bought this figure, because I wouldn't be surprised if they do a better version of this guy based on his look in the actual Boba Fett show. So, you know, he'll be painted differently, because in the show, I don't think he had a prominent scar over his eye, but he had like white streaks in his hair and stuff. So I bet when they do a version based on the TV show, that he'll probably look better. They'll probably give him a big, thicker, sculpted body. And, you know, I probably could have just waited for that figure. You know, I also really don't like how his armor here, it really could have used a wash to bring out this detail. Because as it stands now, it looks plastic. You know, if they had just done a black wash over this, I think that would have gone a long way. You know, even though it's kind of accurate to the comic book, having the spikes be gold and everything, I just think maybe if they'd painted them a different shade of gold, just so it looked like two different pieces, it really would have helped this figure. So, you know, it's okay, but it's definitely not one of my favorites. Next up, Moff Gideon. So here you can get a closer look at that digital printing on the face, and I think he really does look like the actor. I think it captures him quite well. But otherwise, the figure, you know, it's as I said before, it's not particularly interesting. It's, you know, we've seen this before, the kind of standard Imperial body. You know, the black is very Darth-esque. The cape, here's a closer look at that. So you see it just attaches to him by a little knob on the back there. So you can't really pose him in very dynamic poses with the cape on, because it's kind of meant to just kind of sit on his shoulders like that. And I think you can maybe see what I'm talking about with how short he appears next to other characters. Like, I just don't know if the character was really that short, if that's intentional, or if that's just like a poor sculpting choice. Next, we'll take a look at Cassian. So again, I think the face printing on him looks pretty good. It looks a lot better than the winter coat version that came out a couple of years ago. So for accessories here, you can see he's got a blaster, and I guess that can be holstered on his leg here. So yeah, not a bad figure. But again, like nothing particularly mind-blowing about this particular figure. But yeah, it's good. Bib Fortuna. So, great figure. Me and Chad both like this one. This is probably the best of the bunch. But you can see how, like, the material here, like, I don't know if he would have benefited from soft goods. Like, you see there's these tabs that kind of hold this, are supposed to hold this material together, but it doesn't really. As soon as you start lifting his arms, these things come detached, and I just don't think they necessarily found the best way to give us his layered costume. And also what I was talking about, I didn't mean to gross everybody out with my nude Bib Fortuna talk, but if you see just like the shape of his head here, like all these kind of like double chins he has has this very bulbous head like you'd expect to see on an overweight character, but his neck is actually pretty thin and his arms are very spindly and thin, that he just looks like he wouldn't look very natural. Like, this head shouldn't fit on this body. That might be a little nitpicky because overall I do think he looks pretty good. He comes together well. Now, just for a little bit of comparison, here is the vintage figure from the 80s. So you can see here he had a soft goods cloth, and he did have his staff, but I don't know if I have that anymore. I might have misplaced that. And then here is the like Power of the Force 2 figure from the 90s, and you can see they went with the kind of soft goods that just hangs over his body on this one too. It's also a little weird. So I think probably the original one is probably the best way to tackle it with the soft goods. But I don't think this kind of trench coat is exactly screen accurate either. So I don't know. So anyway, those are my Bib Fortunas. Quickly talk about this guy. Even though I don't have a whole lot more to say about him, I do love this like helmet design for these guys. But I think they look better in their cloaks because here's what I'm talking about with his ape arms. They just hang down. They seem to hang really low on him. I don't know if you guys feel the same, but yeah, he just looks to me like he's got really long arms. Also, I'm really annoyed that his lightsaber, this thing is constantly falling out. That little blade here. So it's got a very kind of shallow hole to plug in. And every time I touch this guy, that thing falls out of his hand. So, he's okay, but if you get him for $15, that's definitely the way to go. I don't think he's worth the full price. Dr. Avazan, I'm not 100% sure that's how you say it correctly, but there is his ugly melted mug. Again, he's all right. He's got a blaster that can be holstered on his belt there. This is the only other Dr. Avazan I have in my collection. This is the first figure they ever made of him. He wasn't in the vintage toy line, but he came out in the Power of the Force 2 line in the 90s. This one looks a lot more screen accurate. So yeah, there you go. He's all right. So Walrus Man. Let's talk about Walrus Man. So, I don't know. What do you guys think about that head? Like I said, it doesn't bother me as much as it did. When I first saw those promotional images, I absolutely hated it. But I am getting more and more used to it. I just feel like he should be a bulkier character. Not just that his head's too big, but like his legs seem too skinny and everything. I don't know. Just for comparison, here's my Power of the Force 2 Walrus Man. So you can see how he's got like a broader shoulder. He's not a particularly big or beefy guy, but everything just looks well proportioned. The same thing on that 12-inch figure I showed you earlier. This guy here, he's just a lot skinnier in the body. His head's a lot bigger. I don't know. Anyway, he's got a blaster as well that's holstered. It's an okay figure. I don't know if I have much more to say about it than I've already said. It remains to be seen if he'll make it on my best of the year list or not, based just on my love of the character, because I don't think based on the figure itself, it really deserves to be on that list. But anyway, and the last figure to talk about is the Obi-Wan. You'll see I decided not to open him up, at least not yet. Maybe I will in time, but I think his face sculpt looks really good. I think it's a big improvement over the original Obi-Wan that came out in like 2014 or so. There's a closer look at his vinyl cape. Now, as far as the colors go, here is a closer look at that vintage Obi-Wan that I recently picked up. So yeah, you can see I think they've translated the colors quite well. And yeah, it's a cool figure. Like I said, even though I didn't own this figure when I was a kid, my brother did, and as soon as I see this Obi-Wan in these colors, it really just brings me back to my childhood in the 80s, and yeah, it's really cool. I'd love it if they made some other characters in this kind of realistic / Kenner style. Like, for example, my boy Walrus Man here, even though it would be kind of weird looking, if they could take him and paint him with the maybe the red bathing suit and the pea green head and everything, I would definitely buy that, even though it would be very, very silly. Anyway, that's it for the closer look at these figures, so let's wrap things up. All right, so thank you for watching. I know I kind of gave you the final word there. I might have cut it off, though. Did you have anything more?
I did not, no.
We're done? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so if you like the video, please make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button,
leave us comments. We always love getting comments, especially on like the format, because we're continuously looking for new stuff to do.
Yep, it helps us out. My understanding is that the more interaction the channel gets, the more it recommends it to other people. So we're always trying to grow the channel. So, help us out. Leave us a comment, even if it's just to say, good job or you suck. So, appreciate that. And we'll be back soon with another episode. So stay tuned. Until next time, ciao.
Sayonara.